The Lord be with you. This is a reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Mark. As Jesus came down from the mountain with Peter, James, and John and approached the other disciples, they saw a large crowd around them and the scribes arguing with them. Immediately on seeing him, the whole crowd was utterly amazed. They ran up to him and greeted him. He asked them, "What are you arguing about with them?" Someone from the crowd answered him, "Teacher, I have brought to you my son, possessed by a mute spirit. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him down. He foams at the mouth, grinds his teeth, and becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to drive it out, but they were unable to do so." He said to them in reply, "O faithless generation, how long will I be with you? How long will I endure you? Bring him to me." They brought the boy to him, and when he saw him, the spirit immediately threw the boy into convulsions. As he fell to the ground, he began to roll around and foam at the mouth. Excuse me. Then he questioned his father, "How long has this been happening to him?" He replied, "Since childhood. It has often thrown him into fire and into water to kill him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us." Jesus said to him, "If you can, everything is possible to one who has faith." Then the boy's father cried out, "I do believe. Help my unbelief." Jesus, on seeing a crowd rapidly gathering, rebuked the unclean spirit and said to it, "Mute and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again." Shouting and throwing the boy into convulsions, it came out. He became like a corpse, which caused many to say, "He is dead." But Jesus took him by the hand, raised him, and he stood up. When he entered the house, his disciples asked him in private, "Why could we not drive the spirit out?" He said to them, "This kind can only come out through prayer." The Gospel of the Lord. I was telling everybody at the masses that I had yesterday that they should read the letter of St. James, because it's just such a practical letter to read, and sometimes people are always wondering what books of the Bible should we read or what books are good for us to read. So when you read St. James, it sounds like it could have been written last week instead of 2,000 years ago. And it basically tells us in each little section that we've had in the past week, and the ones we'll have just for these couple of days, and then we'll go into the Lenten readings, basically just give you some practical wisdom about how to live your life. And today he actually talks about wisdom. And he says, that wisdom is a gift from God, and like any other gift, it should be given out to others. If you're blessed with wisdom of any kind, you should share that with those who don't have that wisdom. And there's all kinds of wisdom. There's philosophical wisdom, and there's very practical wisdom. And we don't all have the same types of wisdom. Thank God we don't, because if anything breaks, I call somebody. Somebody that has that wisdom. And those kind of things. And people ask you to explain scripture passages. Well, maybe I feel a little more comfortable doing that than trying to fix something mechanical that is broken. But as I said, we all have our strength and we all have our weaknesses, and wisdom is knowing which is which, and wisdom is knowing whom to call when you can't to do it yourself and who you can rely on, and then offering your own gifts to other people. So that's practical wisdom. And it says it's not jealous, it's not selfish, it's just it's practical. Use the gifts that God has given you to help those that surround you. And then this reading to the miracle of expelling this demon from this boy. There's a couple things that are interesting. The boy's replied when Jesus says everything is possible to the one who has faith. The boy's father does that kind of famous verse. He says, "I do believe, help my unbelief." That I do believe, but I could always believe better, and I could always believe more. And I need to know more about my faith, and I need to know more about my beliefs. And I think we're all like that. None of us knows exactly everything that the Lord wants us to know. So we can always, in a sense, kind of work on that type of wisdom too, spiritual wisdom, and increasing our faith and increasing our belief in the Lord and increasing our knowledge of the Lord, through prayer and through study. Then the other verse that always kind of causes a little consternation too is the very last one, when Jesus is talking to his disciples, and they say, "Why couldn't we drive that spirit out?" He says to them, "This kind can only come out through prayer." And what are you doing when you're praying? You're basically asking God to help. I think he's telling his disciples, don't rely necessarily on your own power, on your own, your own wisdom, but rely on the Lord's. Pray that the Lord might help. The Lord will cast out this demon. In a sense, you don't cast out the demon, but the Lord casts out the demon. So work with God, and God will work with you. God will help you to do those things you need to do. God will help you to do things that you probably couldn't even think you could do, because all things are possible with the one who has faith, as Jesus tells the father of the boy. Let's